What's up, you filthy fight fans? It's me, Jason Filthy Jones, bringing you another fight talk, recapping Bellator 255. Now, guys, the fight card went down this weekend, and I have to say it was a pretty decent card. From beginning to end, tough fights, gritty fights, had some finishes, had a couple of decisions, but they all were tight, nice fights, except couple of hiccups in the co-main event, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, guys, I wouldn't be doing myself any favorites if I didn't talk about Khabib Nurmagomedov's cousin Usman Nurmagomedov, who was making his Bellator debut this weekend, and it was against Mike Hamill. And now, guys, what can I say about this fight? But it was a tough, gritty, nasty fight from bell to bell. And I have to say, even though it was a gritty fight, all I can say is the combinations, the way that Usman was throwing his combos, the way he was mixing in his ground game, he is a phenom, bringing it in lightweight. He's undefeated, and he's showing that he's a gritty fighter. But props out to Mike Hamill. He did show that he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he was a gritty fighter, and he wasn't going to stop, and you weren't going to break him. He had a will to keep pushing the pace and keep trying to get it done, but he just didn't have the skills to handle against Usman. So Usman came out of there with, of course, a nasty-ass decision, but looking tough and gritty and ready to keep it going and ready to bring it up and I can't wait to see how he's going to be playing out in this division in Bellator. He's looking like he's going to be holding on to that belt real soon. Can't wait to see how he moves up. He's only 22, still young, got a way long way to grow in this sport, but I can see right now that that's going to be a future champion. Moving on from Usman, getting into these heavyweights, I had to get in with Tyrell Fortune and against, of course, Jack May. Now, Jack May is one of those names that's been around a long time. Even when I was back in Cali, I used to see him on the local circuit. He was a tough, gritty fighter and usually could bring it. But I have to say, in this fight, he had nothing to bring. Tyrell Fortune was using his ground game, taking him down at will, and was just landing some vicious ground and pound until he was able to get that TKO and get Jack May out of there. Now, what can I say for Tyrell Fortune? That nasty man is going to be looking up there to try to get into that title contention, going undefeated and just bringing the pain. Bellator is showing that they have diverse divisions right now, and they're just starting to stack their cards. Can't wait to see how he's going to develop and start showing up in these next couple of fights. With all that, guys, got to get into this co-main event, which is going to be Neiman Gracie versus Jason Jackson. Now, this one, guys, was a kind of a weird one, and it was just because of the errors that ended up happening in the fight. Now, in the beginning of the fight, Jason Jackson was really pushing a pace onto Neiman Gracie, was able to get him with a 1-2 and also a really decent right hand until he shot him for a takedown, but it seemed that Neiman Gracie was able to get the underhooks and get his arms wrapped around his waist, was able to drag him to the floor. Knowing that Neiman Gracie is a really good jiu-jitsu guy, he wanted to take it to the floor anyway, so he was able to reverse the transaction. But as going down onto the floor, you have Jason Jackson, who ends up getting his face raked across the cage, and it seemed that his eyelid was stuck open, so his bare eyeball was rubbing against the cage, which caused a kind of a hiccup in the first round because it was a very weird one. He was pawing at his eye and was complaining about his eye until the ref was able to basically stop the fight for a moment to have the doctor take a look at it. Doctor okayed him to keep it going, but you do notice the swelling keeps freaking coming up as the fight progressed on. Now, in the ending of that round, Jason Jackson was able to get some really big takedowns in there, and with everything going on, it was a very weird round, so it was a weird round to kind of gauge on how to score it. Also, with all the stuff that ended up happening in the first round, I'm pretty sure a lot of people forgot how that first round actually went. So we move into the second round where basically Neiman Gracie ends up getting a takedown. It ends up having a ton of control, but never really doing any damage. And after that, we ended up into the third round where Jason Jackson was able to pretty much get on top of Neiman Gracie and was able to land some good ground and pound, which once again, I do feel like it was a kind of a weird fight. A lot of people were probably thinking that it should have went to Neiman Gracie, but Jason Jackson pretty much had it 2-1 in the odds. Now, how with the eye scrape and the basically the timeout in action and everything just was ended up being a weird fight. Now, where do I see it going with this one? Neiman Gracie, I hope he's going to be able to bounce back. This is only his second loss in Bellator. He's actually been pretty much a phenom in the Bellator welterweight division. Can't wait to see where it's going to go next. Hopefully, he's going to get back in there with another top 10 opponent. He was number 3. Jason Jackson was coming in at number 6. Also, just letting you guys know, these new Bellator rankings, they literally just came out this month. So we're going to see a lot of movement in this. They're going to start moving their guys around a lot, giving a lot of fights that are going to start building up and coming up in the later months as we move on through the year. And we're going to see a lot of movement in this division. I can't wait to see how this turns out. But for Jason Jackson, that puts him pretty much on, I think, a 5-fight win streak. He should be in line for another title shot, but I'm pretty sure, I think Asarov is actually going to be the next one for a title shot in the welterweight division for Bellator. Going to keep looking into it and see how it goes, but I can't wait with Jason Jackson. I'm pretty sure he'll probably pick up another fight, and hopefully he'll get a win in that, and we'll be seeing him in the title fight against Diego Lima. Now, with that, guys, got to get to this main event, and the main event was action-packed event, but also kind of a subtle event with Patricio Pitbull basically getting the submission win over Emmanuel Sanchez. Now, the weird thing about this, if you guys haven't been watching Bellator, their first matchup was a freaking barn burner. It was a back and forth fight, really gritty, seeming that Emmanuel Sanchez had the stuff to actually get Pitbull out of there until Pitbull was able to land some heavy shots in the last of the rounds and was able to get Emmanuel Sanchez out of there. Now, with this fight, it looked like Emmanuel was pretty much hesitating. It seemed like he was waiting for Pitbull to come at him, which he was seeming to, like, I guess you could say, playing the Counter-Strike game, or he was just trying to get a fill-out process and wasn't really trying to push the pace, which is really odd because Emmanuel Sanchez is really good with his cardio, and he usually is a person that keeps a very, very high volume rate and is able to push the pace continuously. So it was just odd to see the way that the beginning of the round, I thought he was just going to come out just swinging and going and ready to bang with them. But they didn't end up going that way, and we ended up with basically Patricio being able to land a really good hook on basically Emmanuel Sanchez, and then Emmanuel Sanchez seeming to be rock and Pitbull just staying on him and able to get a guillotine in. And when he gets the guillotine locked in, guys, that's pretty much it. It's a wrap. He is one of the best guillotines in Bellator. He pretty much knows his squeeze perfectly and he put Emmanuel Sanchez out. Sucks for Emmanuel Sanchez, but I can't wait for the finals of this featherweight title match. It's going to be Patricio Pitbull Ferreira versus AJ McKee. Now, guys, AJ McKee is an undefeated I think he's about 24 years old, and he's just a phenom. Coming out of Long Beach, California, tough, gritty fighter, really good wrestler, really good hands, long, lanky, and fast. It's going to be, has a really good advantage against Patricio, even though he is basically, he's the GOAT of Bellator. A lot of people are calling him the 145-pound king of all of MMA. I would love to see him go up against Max Holloway. Don't get me started on the Alexander Volkanovski. Anything, we're not going to talk about that one right now. But I'm just saying, I can't wait for this matchup. It's going to be a gritty fight. Can't wait to see if AJ McKee is going to be able to dethrone Patricio Pitbull Ferreira. If so, I see AJ taking that belt and then moving up to 155 and trying to challenge Patricio there again. So we'll see how it goes. Can't wait. Was a really good fight. Make sure you guys stay tuned in to find out more about Bellator. But with that, guys, we got to get to these breakdowns. I got 2 freaking fight cards to break down for you guys this week. And of course, starting off with Friday, April 2nd, we got Bellator 256, which is the kickoff to the light heavyweight Grand Prix tournament, which is going to be a rematch of course, Ryan Bader and Bader Machida. Now, before we jump in and break down that fight, we also have to get into the co-main event, which is going to probably be another name that you might know, which is going to be Liz Carmouche versus Vanessa Portra. Now, guys, This is a tough, gritty fight. I can't wait to see how this one's going to go down. Liz Carmouche is looking nasty, still bringing a great ground game and some heavy hands and a lot of power behind those hands. Now, Vanessa Porto, I got to admit, it's not that much I have on her, but she looks like a tough, gritty kickboxer, always ready to push the pace and always ready to get you on your back foot so she can throw a high kick and lay you out of there. Can't wait to see how the fight goes down. Now, with that, we got to get into this main event, which is going to be Ryan Bader versus Bader Machida. Now, this is kicking off the light heavyweight Grand Prix. Now, if you guys have been following Bellator, then you would know that Ryan Bader has been wrecking Bellator for a couple of years now. He was recently the light heavyweight champ. He just recently lost it, but he was still able to get in the mix of this Grand Prix, and he's still the heavyweight champ of Bellator. Now, he's going up against Bader Machida again. Now, guys, as much as this is a rematch, this is also a completely different fight because Ryan Bader always seems to bring in some different tools. I can't wait to see how he's going to be mixing in his wrestling and having some phenomenal hands. His hands has gotten a lot better since he's left the UFC. Can't wait to see how this matchup goes. But he has to basically solve the anomaly like always, which is Bader Machida, bringing in that karate stance, that quick fighting, quick pace. He hasn't lost a beat with his speed and is still able to move in and out quickly and able to throw those kicks like out of nowhere. Now, how is this matchup going to go down? Not exactly sure, but I'm kind of going with Ryan Bader. I feel like his wrestling is going to be key on this, and he's going to get Bader on his ass and be able to throw in some ground and pound and put Bader out. Now, with that, guys, have to jump into this UFC Fight Night because it's going down. Now, as much as it's pissing me off that it's not Marvin Vettori versus Darren Till, it ended up being a really good matchup, and we get Big Mouth coming back, trying to bounce back after his loss to Derek Brunson, and he's trying to take on Marvin Vettori. Now, before we get to that main event, guys, we have to talk about Arnold Allen versus Sadiq Yusuff for the co-main event. Now, if you guys don't know about Arnold Allen, man, he is a phenom at featherweight. Just bringing hand, speed, and mixing his game, all-round kind of fighter, tough, gritty fighter that never backs off, is literally on a 6-fight win streak right now. So you need to be paying attention to him. But don't count out Sadiq Yusuff, a Nigerian fighter who's always ready to bring it, has some really, really heavy hands, and has a lot of speed with them. And he's literally on a 3-fight win streak. Now, who's going to be end up losing on this fight card? Not sure. But with me, I got to go with Arnold Allen just because he mixes it up so freaking well, and he's coming out of a tough, gritty fight team like TriStar. Now, with that, guys, let's jump into this main event, which is, of course, going to be Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland, the Big Mouth. Now, guys, as we know, Kevin Holland is trying to bounce back from that loss against Derek Brunson and basically seeming like he's biting off a little bit more than he can chew. Now, I'm really worried about how this matchup is going to go because it hasn't been that long and he's jumping right back in. And trust me, Marvin Vettori is a really good kickboxer, but he's no slouch on the floor either. He's able to mix in a really good ground game. His wrestling is becoming really good, and he's been training really well with it and using it to be able to mix in with his hands. Now, if Kevin's going to be coming in like how he is with Derek Brunson, I see this another loss for him, and he's going to be falling back down, falling out of the top 10. Now, for Marvin Vettori, this is somebody who has a name. This is somebody that he can really just beat the crap out of and maybe be able to get that interest in Izzy to bring Izzy out for a title fight against him. Now, how do I see this matchup going? It's kind of hard for me to still not want to pick Kevin Holland because I just know he is a really good fighter. He has some kind of mystique about him. But after seeing what happened with him with Derek Brunson, I'm going to have to go with Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori is seeming like he's just a man on a mission, and he has nothing but Izzy on his mind, ready to try to take that belt. Now, with that being said, guys, that's all I got for the fights that are coming up this week. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. So tune in for next time when I'll be having more information about these fights that are coming out on this weekend. And like always, guys, if this is your first time here, guys, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, do me a favor, mash that like button so we can beat the YouTube algorithm and we can get the Filthy Report out there so everybody can start talking about Fight Talk. Also, do me a favor, click the bell so you guys know when the next episode is dropping. And like always, guys, If nobody loves you, I love you. I am Jason Filthy Jones, bringing you the dirtiest information with the cleanest style. Peace.